In this video, I'm continuing with the standards checker exercise, and I'd like you to work along with me. The first thing I have to do is to create the new standards design lib in which to put the standards themselves. Now, currently I'm in my designlib.designlib file, as you can see, and I'm going to use that as a starting point. I'm going to do a save as to a new file name, which will place this new name in the same folder as my original design lib. So this one I'm going to call standards, because it's going to contain the standards to be checked. And it has to have a design lib extension, of course. It's in my level 2 folder, and I'll click on save. Now I'm in my standards design lib file automatically. And one thing you might want to consider, and I'm going to open up the element templates here. The thing to consider is that my standards design lib is in place, and it contains the same element templates as does my design lib file. Now this makes sense because I use save as, so everything in the original my design lib file will also be in place in the new standards file. Now, to avoid confusion, you might want to delete these particular standards because they're of no value in the standards file, and they might well cause confusion down the line. I'm going to do that. This is not strictly necessary because there are ways around this, but I like to be neat and tidy. So now there are no element templates in the standards design file, which is fine. The original ones remain in my design lib file. And the second item is that I would like the standards design lib to be available to all other files in my system. So to do that, I need to place it in the design lib file configuration file. So let's do that right now. I'm going to go to Workspace and Configuration. I need to find my design lib list file, and I'm going to do this a different way this time. Rather than search through the entire list, I'm going to go down to Primary Search Paths on the left. Click on that, and one of them is the design library list, which is what I need. So I'm going to click on that, open it. I need to edit this. But before I do, notice that here is our entry for the my design lib file, and that is specifically referenced. And I could do exactly the same thing with the standards file. I could write that path into there as well. But it often makes more sense to do a wholesale path where every design lib will be loaded. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to edit, and instead of the specific file name, I'm going to place a star here. Now the star means all files. And that's what's happening actually with the default MicroStation design lib above. If you expand that, you'll see that. It's right here. So right now, any design lib in my level 2 folder will be accessible by all files. So I'll say OK, and save the changes. And at this point, of course, I have to close and reopen MicroStation to make sure this sticks. So if you've done the same thing that I just did, then please close and reopen MicroStation, and I will see you on the other side of that. Okay, here we go. I reopened MicroStation into my standards design lib. Now, as a matter of interest, let's take a look at the element templates while we're here. And you'll notice that I have an extra file showing up. I have the standard my design lib, and I have a P73 project design lib. This is a project I've been working on and which you'll be working on in much later videos. This is now available to me because everything in that level 2 folder will be displayed here. Now this can cause confusion, especially since we have essentially the same element templates in place in both design libs. But if I expand the walls section, you'll see that in the original My Design Lib, I simply named them exterior walls and interior walls. Whereas in the P73 project design lib, I have specifically said that these are exterior walls in the P73 project. So very careful naming of element attributes is really important as you develop more and more design libs. It's very important to specifically name each item so there's no confusion between the design libs. Now, having sorted out the design libs, let's get on to the standards checker itself. Now I need to go to Utilities, Standards Checker, and Configure. This brings up the Standards Checker settings box. I need to create a name for my settings file, So I'm going to click on that and enter a name, which will be my checker. You can add a description if you wish. I'll say OK. So my checkings file is called my checker. And these are the options that can be checked. And you can clearly see that we can check levels, text styles, dimension styles, element templates, and line styles. Now for this exercise, I'm only interested in element templates. So I'm going to go across and click on the settings for element templates. The element templates box pops up, and I must make some choices here. First off is the source of the element templates. And the source I want to use, of course, is the my designlib lib file. That's where I'm keeping my settings for this exercise. I do not want to include the P73 project design file. That project could have entirely different settings. And the standards designlib has no settings at all. If you remember, I deleted those. So what I don't really want to do then is to use the configured design libs, which are in the design lib list path. So I'm going to choose something different. I'm going to use selected design libs. In other words, I can select which ones I want to use. I only want this one, so this one can be deleted. Click on the delete key, which removes this design lib from the list. And that one can go too, just to avoid confusion. There. All I have left is my design lib, which I'm working with. Now, just to recap, if you did select configured design libs, that will work just fine if you only have one design lib in that particular path. Could also work if you have several design libs which you're using in the current files, and you want to check all element templates from all libraries. We don't, so it's going to stay as selected design libs. Next thing is check local templates, meaning that the checker will make sure that the local templates are correct, and it will check all elements which are locked to those templates. We can check a whole range of properties. If you drag the list down, you'll see quite a few. We'll leave all those checked, but you could be quite selective here if you wish to. Everything's ready. We'll say OK. So my element templates is set. My checker is in place. I'll say OK. Now, I need to go to a regular design file to see if this works properly. So we will go to a different design file. I'm going to use my houses 1 and 2 file from a while ago. I have some spare lines in there, which I don't want. And let's place some lines with the templates. Now, you have to be a little careful here in that the templates will be picked up from whichever design libs are in the design lib list path, which are these two. Now, I only want this one, not this one, but they look very similar. Except that if I expand the walls in each case, you'll see that in the my design lib file, they are simply called exterior walls. In the P73 project, they're called exterior walls P73. Now, this is actually quite important. When you are creating element templates like this, you really should be very specific about the names you give the templates. And ideally, identify the project that these templates are with. Otherwise, it can get very confusing if they are the same name. So we'll get rid of that for the moment. And let's place some lines. Now I'm going to place them with the exterior walls template, which belongs to my design lib file. I could place them with the P73 file. I don't want to, so I want this one. Changes the color to the correct color. I want to place a line, but I must be sure that my templates are locked, so that icon must be highlighted. Place a line. Let's place a few lines. So they're all locked to that template. Now I'm going to physically change the color of these lines. That one. Change that to, let's say, a purple color. And this one, let's change that to blue. Now, all three lines technically are locked to the template, and the green is the correct color for the template, but these two, while still locked, are different colors. So what the standards checker will do is to check whether the color of these lines conforms to the templates in the design lib. So let's see if this works. So utilities and standards checker, this time we're going to check. I need to find my settings file, so we'll go and look for it. Here it is in level 2. Now don't be surprised if you see here the full default path in MicroStation. No problem. Just navigate to your standards DesignLib file. I'll click on that. Pops into place my checker, which is my file that contains the standards. If there's more than one of these, then simply pop down the list and make a selection. We are checking element templates. Let's just make sure. Settings. Everything's correct. Only the correct DesignLib is going to be used as the reference for these lines. So we'll say OK. Last thing to do is check on the reporting options. We could generate a report file with an XML extension. We could make a named group. What I want to do, though, is what's called interactive, which is immediate and allows me to make changes as necessary immediately in the file. And if I have ignored problems in the past, then it will show ignored problems. We'll say OK. And the checker brings back a report telling me that in the houses 1 and 2 file, I have a color property which is incorrect. It's giving me the first line first, this line, showing me the current value, whereas the standard value is green. I can now ignore the problem. If I don't want to change it, if that's what I actually want, I can fix the problem, or I can skip to the next problem. I'm going to fix it. Watch the color in the view, changes to green, and the next problem pops into place. That's the blue line. Now again, I can ignore, fix, or skip. Let's fix it. Fixed. And it gives me a summary of what's happened. It's found 2 problems, and I fixed 2 problems. Okay. So that's what the standards checker does. It makes sure that elements in the design, in this case, conform to the correct element templates for the DesignLib file that I'm using. Now that's quite a bit of information again, and I'd like you to go back over that yourself. Try different combinations. Try doing it with different settings in the checker files, and try checking different standards like line types and text styles and dimension styles. As I said, this is an invaluable tool in production work where standards must be met in all drawing files.